Annyeong everyone and a great Samsung morning to all. Firstly, thank you for joining our first KPP webinar of this year. So I see a good mix of new and familiar names among the attendees. I am Sneha Kambe, your host for today, with my colleagues from Samsung Research across the globe to introduce our latest addition to the Knox Suite family, Knox Capture. So, our key speakers for today are Payal Agarwal. She is the Regional Technical Manager for Southwest Asia region. Then we have Sara. She is the RTAM for Southeast Asia and Oceania region. And we have Kaitan. He is the PM for Knox Capture and Knox Asset Intelligence for Europe region. So I trust everyone is in good spirits and are as excited as we are about today's session. So let's begin. If you have any questions, please post it in the chat. We will answer those in the Q&A section after the presentation. Now I invite Payal to take it forward from here. So over to you, Payal.
Thank you, Sneha. A very warm welcome to all the attendees once again. To begin with, let's see the basics of software scanning solution. Next slide. In regions where rugged devices are available, we see around 90% of frontline users are interested to invest more on these devices, which is optimized according to work environment. Rugged devices provide protection from various factors like face drop issue, usage in excessive temperature, and many more. Samsung rugged devices are optimized and protected for frontline workers. During selection of rugged devices, we see integrated barcode scanning is one of the key factors. So in market, we see there are two categories of scanner. First is dedicated, which use laser-based scanning, and second is software scanning, where we use camera of mobile devices. And these are used either through inbuilt app or by using SDK to create own scanning solution. Dedicated scanners can scan long range, dedicated for scanning, but the total cost of ownership is a bit high. On the other hand, software scanning offers mid to short range. It has potential for digitalizing work process, but the cost is quite efficient. In dedicated scanners, cost of maintenance, that is laser scan warranty and training to employees is high, while in software scanning, maintenance effort is less and training is easier since it's smartphone-based work and mobile device can be used for other practices along with scanning. Next slide. So with Knox Capture, we provide two types of barcode scanning solution. First is SDK based, which can be integrated into your business app. Or second is ready to use data-rich application, where you can just scan the barcode and inject the result in the business app. So recently we have launched a new version of Knox Capture. So let's see what is it and what are its key USPs. So Knox Capture is Samsung's data capture solution for quick and easy way for use and deployment. Through this, you can transform your device into scanner and configure seamlessly in bulk over the air. Once the barcode is scanned, data can be injected to any business applications like MPOS, logistics, healthcare app, etc. Now, what are the main key USPs of Knox Capture? So we will be covering three key USPs of Knox Capture. First one is a single smartphone can be used for scanning along with other everyday needs. Second, we can quickly scan, capture, and smartly inject the data. And third one is we can easily integrate it with other apps. Knox Capture support instant scanning, wherein if it's a rugged device, user can just push the side button or click on keyboard or floating button to start the scan. Additionally, multi-scan feature improves productivity and efficiency in the business. Next. With Knox Capture, we can also scan and find out the same set of barcodes, package, or items on a view of AR overlay. One can also edit the information about the product and represent it on top of AR views. And as mentioned earlier, deployment and configuration is very easy, and we can integrate it with any work app. So Knox Capture is included in Knox Suite. So many of you might know what Knox Suite is, or to those who don't know, Knox Suite is a bundle of multiple B2B components. So where various enterprise mobility challenges and needs in terms of security, management, throughout the device lifecycle, resulting in low cost of ownership and seamless operations. Knox Suite includes multiple B2B components which can be managed by a single license fee, which makes it easier for IT admins to use Knox solutions. So basically, if you are using Knox Suite, you don't have to buy additional license for Knox Capture. Now, I would like to invite Sarah to cover key components of Capture SDK. Over to you, Sarah.
Hi, thank you, Payal and Sneha. Hello, everyone. So just to remind everyone, we do have a Q&A section later. So in case you may have any queries, please feel free to post them in the chat and we will be responding to those later. So this SDK, as well as the contents of this webinar, is geared towards Android mobile application developers familiar with the Android Studio. In case you're unfamiliar with this IDE, please review the official Android Studio documentation afterwards. Next slide, please. Right. So there are no surprises here in our Knox Capture SDK architecture. On the mobile devices application layer, the application utilizes the Knox Capture SDK, where we'll find the Android archive file, the APIs, license permissions check, etc. This is basically the same for any other Knox SDK that we have so far, except that those specifically for barcode scanning engine are added to correctly detect and recognize the inputs in order to provide the correct outputs. So this barcode engine scanning functionality features the set of property for the symbologies, as well as the detection for the position or location or the rectangular coordinates on the frame, and then the initialization of the feeds from the images frame into the detection of the camera itself. For license activation, this is with regards to the activation and deactivation of the licenses. And then for the Knox Analytics licensor or the agent, this is using the API for analytics in Kai. So this all will be forwarded into the Knox Cloud server. And then afterwards, it will be processed there in order to give you additional information about the usage for KCAP in Knox Asset Intelligence. All right, so next slide, please. So this software development kit will allow the Android developers to build applications using Knox Capture Scan Engine functionality. The entire app building process can be summed up into 5 steps depicted here on this image. So we start by instantiating the barcode scanner view, drawing the and opening the camera preview, drawing other extra buttons or UX or extra overlay on top of the barcode scanner view based on the app UX requirements, getting the correct image frame, and finally we get the detected barcode returned back. So this whole process can be summed up in those 3 bullets that you see on screen. Next slide, please. So to get started, as usual, there are no special steps for these prerequisites. It's pretty straightforward once again. So Android Studio is the official IDE for Android app development. You will need to download and install this IDE in order to develop any apps using the Knox Capture SDK. Once you install Android Studio, create an Android project and configure your Android project's environment. In order to download the Knox Capture SDK, you'll need to have a valid Samsung Knox Partner Program account. If you don't have an account, you can enroll in the Samsung Knox Partner Program as a developer by following the instructions on our partner documentation site, which we will be also sharing afterwards. Third, a valid developer license is required in order to develop the Android apps using the KCAP SDK. you'll need to have a valid Samsung Knox Partner account as well in order to generate the Knox SDK license. Lastly, for the Knox developer license and SDK, this can be downloaded via developer.samsungknox.com, provided you have a valid Knox Partner account. For the package, this scanning library includes, its name is Knox Capture SDK-1.0.0.AAR. The documentations and other related links will also be shown later during the Q&A session. So for the supported devices, we will also be sharing the list or the links to the list of all the devices supported by the Knox Capture SDK. But to summarize, it supports devices categorized as secured by Knox above Android 12 or SOS and above. For the scanning engine, this is new in-house developed by the Camera TG and the Visual Software and R&D group in Samsung Research. All right, next slide, please. So the first thing that you'll want to do when adding this SDK is to download the Android library or that AAR file from the developer portal. Once you download that library in the form of AAR file, you will need to add it to your Android Studio project. So you will need to modify the build file in the app as well, which comprises of 3 steps on this. First, you'll need to include that SDK AAR file in the library folder and then reference to it in the build file. As seen on this example above, we added the libs folder including the AAR file. Second is to include the Camera X dependency in the Gradle build file. Our library has a dependency on the Google's Camera X library, so this one is used during the camera preview. It also allows us to use the Camera X API so that we can access the camera hardware. And lastly, the third one, we need to add the minimum Android version. So version 31 corresponds to Android SOS. One important thing to note in Android, the user must explicitly grant permission for each app to access the cameras. Your application needs to declare the use of the camera permission in the Android manifest.xml file and request it at runtime so the user can grant or deny the permission. To do that, follow the guidelines from the request app permissions as displayed on screen in order to request the Android.permission.camera.permission to be activated. So since the KCAP SDK does not control the camera permission for the hardware, the Android application itself has to declare the camera usage in their manifest file, so requesting permission has to be done via the app. Next slide, please. So for the license registration, this is the basic steps we have to follow for license registration for all of our SDKs. In case there is something missing here, feel free to inform us, but this is the gist of it. So basically, you sign in to the Knox Partner Program console, select Knox Developers, click Add License Key to get a license key, select the development key, select recommended to generate or backwards compatibility key, or you can either show the list to view the product permissions included with the development key. Fifth, you should name your license key to differentiate between multiple license keys that you operate using the Knox SDKs. You will also need to enter a name before the Get License Key button becomes available. Sixth, we associate the application package for the KCAP SDK. And then lastly, we click Get License Key. So those are the usual steps that we follow. Next slide, please. Right, so once you've got the license key from the portal, you'll need to activate the license in the SDK. You will need to activate this before using any Knox Capture SDK APIs. The best practice is for the license activation to be done on the first time you initialize the app or the first time you launch the app. So the main class that we see here is called the Scan License Client. Once you have those license key that you got from the registration, just call this class and get scan license, activate license to pass the license key. You will have two return values here. Either it will be a success or a failure. If it's failed, you may need to call the customer support. But Sorry, this flow is the same for any other Knox license. If it's successful, there will be a UI pop-up for terms and conditions, and then when they accept, only then is the license activated. All right, next slide, please. So for barcode scan, this class is called the barcode scan preview view. So we want to make sure that the app developers have all they need to start using the SDK. So here we have our built-in camera preview, which is related to the camera X dependency from earlier. This way, the app developer does not need to develop their own integration to the camera. They can just use the built-in barcode preview into their own app UI layout. For example, let's say you have a UI frame layout in one of your screens. Then we can just embed that barcode scan preview view inside one of those layouts. In this case, you have just the regular view matching the whole size of the UI. All right, next slide, please. So now, what are you going to do once you get that barcode scanning result? Basically, this is about how we handle the barcode scan callback. So then you're going to want to start configuring this using the preview config class that we have here. In this example, you can see we are configuring the camera resolution as UHD and the symbology. We have a feature list which we can use as a parameters like zoom info, logo, position, camera, flashlight, etc. Finally, once you initialize the preview view and start the scanning process, at this moment, the scan happens only when you call the preview view dot start barcode analyzing. All right, next slide, please. Here is the end-to-end scenario now for the developers using the Knox Capture SDK. So from this flow, you'll be accessing two portals for Knox and developers. The Knox portal will be your gateway for Knox solutions and services, including the introduction to the new Knox Capture app and SDK, as well as the Knox Capture for Knox Suite in Products menu. For the developer portal, you will be seeing here the developer documentation, such as the API references, guides, tutorials, and FAQs, as well as the development support for the SDK, sample apps, and license key binding. So the steps here are all the same again with all our Knox SDKs. So from the Knox portal, you log in, you get the SDK, you obtain the development key, you build the app, you activate the development key, and then once you're ready to go and commercialize the app, or you can just contact the reseller and obtain the paid license key, start the application binding, and the deployment of the application. All in all, that is the overview of the end-to-end process. So this now is the time for me to be turning over to my colleague Kai for the solution demo. Hi, Kai.
Hi. Hello, everybody. My name is Kajetan. You can call me Kai. Sarah explained the entire SDK very thoroughly. However, apart from the documentation, it was mentioned we have a sample app. So I want to briefly explain the features of a sample app, how can you get it, and also I will conduct a live demo of both the sample app and the SDK. Next slide, please. So first of all, what you can get in the sample app. You get the sample app in the same panel that you're getting your developer license. Sample app allows you to see the complete implementation done by our colleagues in R&D, but also to try the engine yourself. The sample app has 4 key features, which are full screen scanning, multi-screen, split screen, and settings. In full screen, you will be able to check the functionality of scanning a single barcode and check the contents of it. In multi-screen, you are able to scan multiple barcodes at the same time, so the multi-scanning mode. Split screen is an example implementation of scanner view integrated into UI of the app. Basically, half of the screen is camera, half of the screen is the output of the barcode. And very interestingly, but not least importantly, Put settings is a part that allows you to play with all the settings of SDK scanning and try them immediately, on the go. Next slide, please. Here you can also see a couple screenshots to also see how the views look like. Next slide, please. We will conduct a live demo. If I could get a screen sharing option right now, then I will be able to stream my phone. Yes, can you see my screen now?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. You can see the direct stream from my phone. It's Xcover 6 Pro, but of course, most of the Samsung devices are compatible. I have my SDK sample that you can download the entire code and just compile it in Android Studio. I did no changes here. So let's go piece by piece and check all of the functionalities. First, the single barcode scanning. As you can see, I can simply scan a barcode, check with the contents and the symbology. I can go to different barcode to achieve the same result. In multi-screen, this is where our SDK really shines because I can scan multiple barcodes in multiple symbologies at the same time, and I can get the results of every single one of them separately. Of course, in your SDK implementation, this data can go to any place in your app. Split screen gives you an example of a shared interface. Also, here you can manage the lighting features or change the camera, front or back one that you want to use. And last but not least, put settings is a bit more interactive. First, you have the single scanning, but here you can access all of the variables that you can set up in SDK. Just to give you something very visible, by default, we are not zooming the scanned barcodes. So right now, I see it like this. But I can go to put settings, and let's change the zoom factor to 2.1, for example. Immediately, you can see that the zoom is way stronger. I can edit it in any way that I want. I can make it even stronger. Try it again. So before the actual implementation occurs, I can use the sample app also to check all of the options here. Check the symbology supported, turn off some of them, and generally play with it before the actual implementation occurs. I think we can go to Q&A now. Thank you very much. I see there is a first question on the chat. Actually, there are more than one. So if my colleagues are okay, I can tackle the first one. So how can we test the augmented reality scan? So AR scanning is not the part of the sample app itself. However, as was previously mentioned, Knox Capture and Knox Capture SDK is one product. And you also have the Data Wedge app, which is available in Google Play Store. And this app allows you also to try the scanning and the entire package, even without the license key. It allows you for 100 scans. And there is an AR demo there. So we will also be sharing the materials, but if you want to try the augmented reality features, you can use the art demo from Google Play Store. Do I need a license to start using Knox Capture? Yes, the license is needed depending on a situation. It will be a developer license or a commercial license. With the free version of the app, you can just keep the license, but for 100 scans. Later, you need to still put the license key.
Yeah, so we also have one more question. Where can we find the demo app?
So depending on which app we want to check, if it's about the sample app, it's visible on the screen. You need to follow the documentation. It's available in your Knox Partner Program Developer console. So if you are approved as a developer, there is a sample app section and you can download the app there. And for the entire Knox Capture solution, there's also a demo app available on Google Play Store. If you're on a Samsung device, look for Knox Capture and you can just download it and play with it.
So the next question is, what is the difference between KCAP versus the Knox Capture Candid Edition?
So I would answer it that way. So Knox Capture itself is not just a digital scanner. It's a more complex barcode processing solution. So Knox Capture, shortly put, is our fully developed Samsung product with SDK and the Wedge app. And it also has our Samsung branded internally developed scanning engine. Candid Edition has the same data wedge app, no SDK, as a root of it. However, we use Candid's company famous scanning engine as an alternative for some customers. So it's a bit different offering. If you know Candid's offering, you know that their solution has a bit different focus than ours. However, the root basis, so the data wedge app, is very similar. However, Knox Capture's Candid Edition is a separate product than Knox Capture. It's a separately paid license. It's not part of Knox Suite. If you have Knox Suite, you have the Knox Capture version. The demo link, if you're interested regarding the Candid Edition, it's actually the same demo app called Knox Capture in Google Play Store, because depending on the license key you will put after 100 scans, you will get one version or the other. However, until you run out of 100 scans, you can try both versions in the same app.
So there are a few more questions like, hi, I want to ask, so if we want to use Knox Capture, we must build apps first that contain with Knox SDK, or we can use existing apps that open camera and we can register it.
Could you repeat the question?
They are asking if in order to use Knox Capture, they have to build apps first that contain Knox SDK, or whether they can use the existing app that open camera and then register it.
Well, you can follow the documentation. You don't have to do full implementation. You can just do the elements that you need. So basically, that's the latter option, not the first.
Then we have a few more questions here. They're starting to come in. Can a partner reseller resell a developer license to a developer?
Developer licenses are not resellable. So if you get assigned in Knox Partner Program, you get the license, but it's a bit separate license than a commercial license. So the developer license you get for free. It's for testing or test deployment. However, it's a separate topic than commercial talks.
Then we have a few more here. Most customer apps will use Zebra SDK. How much work is needed to convert to KCAP?
As you know, generally that I don't like to answer that way, but I have to. It depends, because every organization, every app is built differently. Sometimes you have your own development team. Sometimes you have external agencies. Sometimes your app is very modern. Sometimes it requires a refactor. So the implementation itself is very simple. With tests, it shouldn't take you more than 2 or 3 man days. And it's very easy to implement in even couple man hours. However, of course, it depends how deeply and rooted the Zebra SDK originally was in your business processes. If you have, for example, one view with one input of scanning, then it's a matter of couple hours. But if you use this SDK in many places, in different ways in the app, of course, the effort will grow significantly. However, it's not. It's more about the use cases, the actual migration of code needed, it's not very hard.
Then we have another question. What is the minimum and maximum scan range?
So that actually depends on the scanned type of barcode. Same with other digital scanning solutions. So depending on the barcode being scanned and also a bit of lighting conditions, it will vary. However, we have tables available where we have our supported barcodes. But I can give you an example. For a smaller codes like smaller EANs codes, we have around 40 to 50 centimeters. But for example, for QR codes in lab controlled conditions, we managed to get consistently over a meter, like 140 centimeters in mixed lighting. So we have tables available which they can be shared. However, depending on a barcode, it will be from 30 centimeters to 140 something centimeters. The minimum scanning range varies on the phone, but it's literally a couple centimeters. During the live demo, one of the codes I scanned twice. One was from 20 something centimeters, once I was literally 4 centimeters from it. I basically put my phone to it.
All right, then we have another question here. What license types are available for KCAP?
So for KCAP, as an entire base of our products, if we will skip the developer license, since it's for development, you have two types of licenses. The Scandit Edition license, which is separately priced, and the Knox Suite license, which allows you to use the Wedge app and the SDK. So you have two licenses. Only one includes SDK.
Then what parameters can be configured in the SDK?
We have the entire appendix in our presentation later in the slides, but it's quite a lot. Supported symbologies, zooming, if you want to use automatically autofocus, the size of the scanning window in CSS, which camera is being faced, management of the torch, so the flashlight of the phone, also the placement of the logo and offsets. So generally, almost everything related to scanning performance, but also to outlook of the entire scanning process.
Okay, then we have a couple more here. Do you have the test results of various barcode MIL size?
I think we have it. However, I would have to double check if it's in the test tables.
All right. Then we follow that up with another question. Can you program the Xcover key to trigger the scanner similar to a trigger on a Zebra scanner?
Yes.
All right, so I'm rechecking all the questions coming in. It looks like we have answered everything.
Yeah, we have one more question,
Okay.
which is how many plans can we make with the free version of the application?
If I heard it correctly, how many scans we have in the free version, right?
Correct.
The free version of the app, the Wedge app, has 100 free scans in both versions. So if you use the Wedge, if you use the developer app for SDK, you have no limit. But if you download the Google Play Store Knox Capture app, you have 100 scans. The counter is on above, and it's between two versions. After 100 scans, you need to put the license key to use it more.
All right. So if there are any more questions, please do post it in the chat. We'll cover those questions too. Right now, I think we have pretty much answered all of the questions that were asked. So these are few links which you all can refer to. So we have the link for our Knox partnership program where you can sign up for the program. Then we have the link for Knox Capture. You can go and check out the SDK over there. Then for many people who were asking about the demo app, link. So this is the link of the tutorial for the sample applications. And last one is the link for the supported devices. So all the Samsung devices that support Knox Capture are mentioned on this link. So thank you so much everybody for your time for attending our first webinar. If you have any queries, please reach out to the connect points mentioned according to the regions. So we have Payal from Southwest Asia region, then we have Sara from Southeast Asia and Oceania region, and we have Kaitan from the Europe region. So do reach out to them over email in case of any queries that you might have. I think there is one last question that we have.
Okay.
Just yes. So the question is, the license key should be of Knox Suite or the developer key for Knox Capture.
But for the sample app or to be used as a data vector, the developer key is needed if you want to try the SDK implementation. If you want to use the data wedge version, so the one from Google Play Store, then you need the Knox Suite key.
Yeah, and there is another question there. Is it possible to preview the barcode on the screen and then press the X cover button to proceed the scan?
That's a tricky one. So preview the barcode on the screen, then press the X cover button to proceed to scan. Generally, we use the trigger to trigger the entire view of the scanning. So I would take a note, and if it's possible, we would answer it on a later date. Because I would have to confirm if we could do implementation like that.
All right, I think we have covered all the questions. Thank you so much, Sarah and Kai, for answering the questions. And I think with that, we can conclude the webinar today. So once again, thank you to all the attendees for joining us today. And thank you, Payal, Sarah, and Kaitan for the wonderful presentation and demo. Hope you all have a great day ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.